How important is mindset to you?
Oh, mindset's everything. Mindset is absolutely everything. It's nothing to do with arms and legs. It's nothing to do with physical ability. It's the 6 inches of space between the ears.
Chris Koch was born with no arms or legs, but he is a farmer, speaker, a marathon runner, and a world traveler.
I don't want to be famous. I want to make an impact.
Ditching the artificial limbs, Chris uses a longboard to get around.
I would look at maps. I always felt that for me, as a person without arms and legs, to travel to those places, I would need to go with somebody. When I got going on that board, literally and figuratively, how far can I go? And I remember sitting on that plane, going from Calgary to London. What have I done? What if this is the worst decision I've ever made in my life?
He has learned powerful lessons about life that have brought thousands of people around the world to him.
And that's when I realized 99.9% of the people you ever encounter are going to be anywhere from just good to absolutely incredible.
Chris uses humor as a way to connect with people. What are some of the other things you can't do?
Give people the middle finger. I haven't felt the need to do that much, but there's been times.
And it's the same attitude that has got him through his hardest times.
And you're questioning your own self-worth when you're trying to muster up the courage to ask that girl to go out for drinks or take that leap and send that email out to that company that you've always wanted to work with. Happiness, that's the currency that we should be, trying to fill our accounts with.
Chris, as a person without arms and legs, you have lived a fuller life than many, if not most, other people. What are some of the things that you've done that would surprise most people?
There's the simple things that people are shocked that I'm just happy and loving life. And there's a lot of people I just meet on the street or sitting on the bus or at a grocery store, and I couldn't do it. I wouldn't. And well, yeah, you could. Anybody is capable of doing some pretty incredible stuff. And then, doing marathons. I think I'm at I know I'm at 20 marathons that I've completed now. I'll have 21 in 2 weeks.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was going through a bit of a funk. It was a few years back and just needed to tackle a challenge. And that's one of the things, if I am in a rut, I need to tackle a challenge, go on an adventure, something to clear my mind, get myself out of that rut. And I had a buddy of mine who hitchhiked across Canada quite a few years ago. And I'm going to see if I can go from Calgary all the way to St. John's, Newfoundland. Yeah. And I got there in 17 days. Everybody was amazing. It was still one of the coolest things that I've done, and backpacking through Europe
I honestly think that's incredible. What is the secret behind your accomplishments?
Just there's a bunch of things, and I don't know, I guess I tell people I'm more afraid of regret than failure. So I don't want to look back on life saying, what if I would have done this, or what if I would have tried that? I'm just gonna go and do it.
Is that something that really drives you, that I don't want regrets in life?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a jump in the net will appear type of person. I think we're all guilty of overthinking things. And when I was younger, I did, talk myself out of things. I've talked myself out of going on trips. I talked myself out of, lots of stuff. And honestly, my longboard down there, when I got going on that was a difference maker for me. It was kind of both literally and figuratively, how far can I go? Because I was able to get farther, faster, way easier on the board than I ever could on artificial legs. Okay. And so I was like, distance-wise, can I go 50 kilometers in a day? Can I do a marathon? And then it just made travel a lot easier too. And so it's like, all right, well, let's go cross off some countries. And yeah, I think I'm at 36 now. So
wow.
I got a buddy who's done all 198 countries. Did it by his 40th birthday. I don't know if I'll get to 198, but I'd sure love to try.
That's amazing. And do you travel with groups of people, or do you go alone ever, or with a friend?
Well, a lot of the traveling I do, especially for when I'm doing presentations, I do that on my own. And part of that is, the theme or the motto of my presentation is if I can. And I always feel if I'm showing up at a presentation and I have somebody who's helping me lug bags around and stuff like that, it sort of takes away from the authenticity of if I can. Right. Whereas when I'm showing up at the airport and I'm carrying my bag and got my backpack on and, nobody's helping me get on and off the plane or anything like that, it kind of yeah, okay, yeah, this guy really is out there and not just talking a big talk, but putting his money where his mouth is. And also too, when you're traveling by yourself, you can do whatever you want when you want. You don't have to, answer. But I mean, I've done group trips over to China. I think we did 3 separate trips with Young Leaders World. Tyler Way and Lauren White, and those were cool too. And I mean, that was every single one of those trips that we did. China got better and better each time, but a lot of that was because you're just traveling with great people.
I guess going back to your story, your early days. So, were you born this way? Like what happened?
Yeah, I was born like this. No known reason. My mom never did anything or took anything that she wasn't supposed to. Just one of those things that happened, and it hasn't stopped me from really anything. I've done all the same things all my friends are doing, and probably, made me more, even more driven to get out there and do more and prove to myself what I could do, and then prove to others what I'm capable of doing. And if that has them look within themselves and be like, hey, if this guy's working on the farm, traveling the world, doing marathons, maybe I can raise the bar in my own life. If that happens, that's a bonus. But also too, one of the things that made life a lot simpler, easier, was how my whole family approached the whole thing. And a lot of that's with humor. We use humor a lot. And I always tell this story every interview I do, every presentation that I do. Not a word of a lie. The day I was born, when my grandma heard that I was born missing arms and legs, her reaction was to say that my dad never finished anything he started. And that was perfect. It wasn't, this tragic thing. What are we going to do? It was, all right, it is what it is. We'll be fine, and we're going to have some good laughs along the way. And yeah, humor does a lot. And yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I can think of lots of cases where older generations, maybe not the mindset you'd want them to have, but to hear that from your grandma, like make a joke about it and be positive about it is just awesome. Are your parents and grandparents like real role models for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my grandma, she's 95 now. She's still going. My parents, one thing that I really admire about them, not just the only thing, but one of the big things that I really admired about them and how they approach this whole thing is they never held me back from anything. There was never, an issue with if I wanted to play hockey or if I wanted to snowboard or go golfing or whatever. It wasn't, it might not be safe, it might be difficult. It was, all right, let's figure out a way to do it. And one of the stories my dad tells, they'd be at a barbecue and all the kids would be playing street hockey, and I'd hop in there and I'd grab a stick and start playing. And one of the other moms would be like, should we get the kids to tone it down a little bit so Chris doesn't get a tennis ball to the side of the head or a stick to the mouth? And like, no, that's part of street hockey. It's part of being a kid. You might get hurt. And if they would have stopped the game and said to all the kids, okay, Chris is different, and this, we need to be careful and blah 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 blah, all the kids were like, hey, yeah, it's like pointing out that white elephant there, the elephant in the room. Whereas kids, obviously I'm different, I look different, but they settle into it really quick, and it's a non-issue. I mean, I remember there was a little kid come up to me at a Tim Hortons, I think somewhere in Ontario, and he's with his mom, and his mom says, my son has a question he'd like to ask you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, go for it. He goes, how's your breakfast wrap? And his mom and I look at one another. That's not the question we were expecting. So yeah, kids, they figure it out really quick. They don't notice color. They don't notice gender. They don't notice all those things. It's when adults, start pointing it out and muddying the waters on them. That's when things get complicated.
Interesting. When did you get your skateboard?
Yeah, well, the longboard, that came about, and I was in my 20s when I figured out the longboard, and that's kind of a you never done figuring things out type of thing. I was down in Florida taking a course, and I bought a longboard just for fun. It was at the Ron John Surf Shop in Fort Lauderdale, And I thought it'd be kind of cool cruising up and down the boardwalk along the beach. I'd use a skateboard when I was a little kid in elementary school to get around from class to class, but I wore artificial legs, and yeah, just got on the board. And the very first day, like 20 minutes after boarding along, I stopped to take a bit of a break, and I was like, the distance I just covered on the board, that would have taken me, a couple hours on the legs. I was like, okay, I think we're looking at a game changer here. And then obviously in the wintertime, like those wheels do get through snow and ice easier, or better than a regular smooth wheel. But, I'm on the road. I'm in all kinds of different, climates. I moved to Kelowna. That makes it a lot easier. Snow doesn't stick around as long.
I heard one of your videos that you loved Kelowna. So when you said I moved to Kelowna, you told me earlier. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Kelowna. I mean, if it does snow, typically it doesn't last very long. So it's a lot more conducive to a guy that gets around on a longboard.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city. So you mentioned you had prosthetic arms or legs. How did you feel about those?
Yeah, the arms, I hated them. They were heavy, they were awkward, and I could do everything with what I have way better, way easier, way more efficiently than any prosthetics I've ever tried out. The legs, they serve their purpose, and I didn't wear artificial leg. They tried to get me on legs when I was pretty young, and I fought them. And then about grade 7, when you're a little more self-aware and you start, dating and, all that kind of stuff, I was like, well, no, I don't want to be so low to the ground. I want to be up a little higher. So my legs weren't full length. So I was maybe 4.5 feet tall. And yeah, I went with that for however long it was before I say another 15 years, let's say. Maybe not quite that long. Yeah. And then got going on the longboard. And so, yeah, it was, I mean, when you're missing all 4 limbs or parts of all 4 limbs, it's just a lot of artificial. And everybody's different too. But it just, they didn't work for me. Others, it will work for them.
Yeah, it makes sense. I saw you using your phone.
Yeah, I took my phone out of my pocket, and that's the easiest thing I could show you just really quickly. Yeah. So, thank you. So yeah, I can. Well, balance is something that I figured very early on with my phone. I don't have to hold everything with both arms like that. It's my phone or a burger or something like that, and yeah, I can hit the individual buttons, punch in my password.
No way.
Did you catch the password on there? That's all right. Yeah, I can hit the individual buttons, and I always tell people like I don't use Siri or voice texting. The only thing differently you have to do with my phone is when I'm zooming into a website or a photo, I have to use my mouth. Yeah, so my brother says it makes me look lonely.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I've had a lot of incredible people that I've had the opportunity to meet and have as mentors and people I look up to. But the one thing is, it's a friend of my mom's, and we were in Nepal. I was in Nepal, and there was a couple people who I was meeting up with, and they wanted to go to show me this town a couple hours out of Kathmandu. And it was basically assumed that I was going to be paying for all 3 of us to go there. And I was like, no. Like, yes, sure, my money is worth a lot more, and I can do it, but I felt kind of insulted that it was just expected and assumed that I would be paying for it. And so I went and I was talking to Sherry, and I'm like, what do I do? And she said, you do whatever you want. And she said, everybody has the right to ask for anything. And to not get so bent out of shape or butthurt when somebody does ask something. Like, everybody has the right to ask, and you have the right to say no. And ever since then, I was like, I don't care what people ask of me. That is absolutely their right. And for whatever reason that makes sense or is valid in their mind, that's so to try and tell them that they're wrong for asking that is not right. I don't know why that one just hit me. And And it doesn't seem like it's that big a deal, but it's one that just has really, really stuck with me. And I guess for me, I'm very cautious about what I ask for, but it's also made me be a little more brave and asking people for something too.
What is one thing you believed when you were younger that you realize now either wasn't true or just you realize now it just wasn't worth like focusing on?
I mean, I've always been fascinated with history, geography. I would look at maps and National Geographic magazines, and I always felt that for me as a person without arms and legs, person with a disability, or however you want to word it, to travel to those places, I would need to go with somebody. And whenever you think you have to go with somebody, if that person decides they can't go or they don't want to go or they back out, you kind of have to scrap the idea yourself. So all of a sudden, you're not in complete control of what's going on in your life. And when I got going on that board, when I how literally and figuratively how far can I go, I had always wanted to do a European trip. So I booked a plane ticket, and basically was like, hey, I didn't tell anybody either. So I didn't want anybody's input. I didn't want people trying to talk me out of it or tell me I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. Same with the hitchhiking across Canada. And just booked the plane ticket. I was like, hey, you got 4 months to figure out how you're going to make this work. And, you either wasted, I mean, I would love for a plane ticket to be as cheap as it was back then, but you either wasted $600 or you figure out when you get there. And I remember sitting on that plane going from Calgary to London, like, what have I done? Like, what if this is the worst decision I've ever made in my life? And then I kind of went back to, being more afraid of regret than failure. I'm like, if it happens that I get robbed the second day in, I got to phone my parents like, hey, can you send me some money? I'm broke. I've lost everything. If that's what happens, that's what happens. And it was amazing. The absolute opposite happened. I had people, it was getting close to Christmas too, so people were in the giving mood, but I'd be boarding from Trafalgar Square to Buckingham Palace or from the Louvre to the Eiffel Tower. And people would be just giving me money. I'd be sitting outside a restaurant, or I'd be waiting for the light to change, or at a coffee shop or whatever. And it was neat. A lot of times people had a very similar story, sometimes in good English, sometimes in not so good English. Hey, I've been going through a rough patch and things just haven't been going my way. And I see you with, on your board and no arms, no legs, a big smile on your face, doing your thing. And, just really made my day. So here's €5, or here's 10 Swiss francs, or here's 20 British pounds, beers on me or lunches on me or whatever. And that's when I realized 99.9% of the people you ever encounter are going to be anywhere from just good to absolutely incredible. It's that small fraction of a percentage that sticks out in the news, or, the things that stick in your mind for that one person that did something bad when everybody else was pretty good throughout the day.
Right. That's awesome. How long was that trip to Europe?
It was three months. And on that trip, I hit England, France, Switzerland, Germany, Austria. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a confidence builder too. And that's when you marathons, big trips like that, those are confidence builders. So if you can get over that mental hurdle of, I don't know if I can do it, or it's going to be tough, or it's going to be expensive, or it's not, you don't have to stay at 5-star hotels. You don't have to eat the fanciest restaurants. You can travel on the cheap. And, if you can tick off, one or two of those big things, your confidence goes through the roof. You start to realize that you are capable of doing some pretty incredible things. So when I'm speaking at a high school, I tell those kids, if you have no idea what you're doing when you graduate, travel. And I'm not talking like, 2-week party vacation down to Port Vallarta. I'm talking like 2, 3, 4, 5+ months backpacking through Europe or Southeast Asia or Australia or whatever. You do something like that where the language, the customs, culture, religion is completely foreign to what you're used to. You will learn more about yourself in that, stretch of time than you will in any textbook or any classroom. Not to take away from post-secondary, but like it's funny when you say that, and the teachers who are standing on the periphery that have done trips like that, they're all nodding like, yeah. And then they're like, I need to do another trip like that soon.
So tell me about your passion for travel and what was your biggest trip?
I've been pretty lucky. I've hit 36 countries. I've been to 6 of the 7 continents. My friend always likes to tell me you've only been to Morocco. Yes. And you could see Spain still across the water the whole time. But technically it was Africa. She hasn't been to Africa, so she can just shush. I would love to get, deeper into Africa. And like I said earlier, I got a buddy who's traveled to all 198 countries. And I could sit and listen to him tell travel stories. I could sit and listen to anybody tell travel stories. And I could tell travel stories till the cows come home. I just love it. Also, the perspective you gain, when you travel to a place like Cambodia or Guatemala or Nepal, makes you appreciate how lucky we are as Canadians. And, we do complain about first world problem things, and also to see people so generous and welcoming and kind-hearted, and, trying to give me money, which, the money they give me is like maybe 25 cents. If you do the conversion, to them, it's a lot. It's like, people by our standards that have very little are so happy and kind and generous. And it's amazing to see that.
With all the travels and everything you do, like how important is mindset to you?
Oh, mindset's everything. Mindset is absolutely everything. And that's, my theme or motto of if I can. It has nothing to do with arms and legs. It has nothing to do with physical ability. It's the 6 inches of space between the ears. On our best days, we can convince ourselves that we can do absolutely anything. Nothing is impossible. And then when we're not ourselves, when we're in that rut or in that funk, we can convince ourselves that there's no point in even trying because we're probably just going to fail or mess it up. And, we overthink things as well. And you go back to travel and all these reasons that I thought I had to travel with somebody else or whatever. And I think you only need to give yourself one reason to do something and just grab onto that and go for it. And then again, just be more afraid of regret than failure.
I like that line. When have you been most scared? And I'm not sure if it's traveling or otherwise, but when have you been most scared and how did you get through that situation?
It's the simple things, when you're in that maybe not as positive mind space and you're questioning your own self, self-worth, when you're, trying to muster up the courage to ask that girl to go out for drinks or, take that leap and send that email out to that company that you've always wanted to work with, or just those types of things. I've been, scared, for brief moments, when you're going to a new country or I was traveling with a couple of friends. We were in Montenegro, and I wasn't as scared as my friends were, but we didn't realize there was this tourist tax that you had to pay. It was $1 a day per person, so it wasn't that much. And so it was our last stay in Montenegro in a place called Kotor, and so we find out that we still owe tax for our stay in Budva. So we're like, oh, we'll just pay it all here. It's like, no, you have to go back to Budva and pay this tax. I'm like, no, we're not going back to Budva. So we're looking up to see what the penalty is going to be, and I don't remember what the fine was. They didn't really say anything about jail, but they also didn't say there wasn't potential jail either. And I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, when we get to the border, they're both from Australia. I said, you're going to give me all your paperwork and all your passports. And I said, I will hand all the passports to the border patrol person. And we're just going to hope that the fact that the guy without arms and legs has all the paperwork, that's enough of a distraction that they won't even look at the paperwork. And it worked like a charm. Stamped our papers and we got through. And yeah, they were quite scared. I mean, I was a little bit nervous, but little things like that. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of, I mean, going shark cage diving with great white sharks, that was a little spooky. Swimming in the Amazon River. And you're like,
can you swim? Yeah.
No, I can't. I can't float. Okay. Yeah, I'm dense, and you can take that however you want. But yeah, swim in the Amazon River. Be like, there's crocodiles, piranhas, anacondas in here. Like, well, the people that are leading the tour aren't telling us to get out of the water, so I guess we'll just keep going with it. So, yeah, that was.
What are some of the other things you can't do?
Give people the middle finger. I haven't felt the need to do that much, but there's been times.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it.
If I had a hand just for 2 or 3 seconds.
Sometimes, right?
That'd be great. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of things that I can't do. I mean, height-related things. Like when I check into a hotel, if the towels are way up high. But you just figure out a way to, and that's, one of the things, and I'd said that earlier about my parents and how they kind of stepped back, didn't protect me. And one of the other things that they did great is they didn't make sure all the barriers and the obstacles and the challenges were taken out of the way. They left them in my way. And through that, I was able to develop resilience, perseverance, clever outside of the box ways of doing things. And when I get a room full of parents, I'll tell them the best thing you can do for your kids is less. They need to, when they get themselves into situations or find themselves in certain situations, they need to figure out a way to get themselves out. So if you're bailing them out too much as kids, then you're going to have to go bail them out as adults. And nobody wants their mom rushing to their aid when they're well into their 30s or whatever. Well, I would think they wouldn't, but anyways. So yeah, that was huge. So, I mean, the fact that they did that, I can, scan the room like, okay, well, I mean, my go-to now, if the towel's up on a towel rack way up high, there's always a ironing board in the closet. Just leave the ironing board folded up, use the leg of the ironing board, pull the towel down. And then, when there's a bed in the hotel room that's way too high, you just have an opportunity to make a funny video out of it. So,
post it to social media. But no, it's such a good point. I mean, I can imagine just if someone had instead pushed you around in a wheelchair when you were younger all the time, and maybe I'm sure some people it's necessary, but if there was a way at all possible for you to overcome those challenges, I mean, obviously it's led to so much more freedom in your life.
No, for sure. And I see parents of kids who are of similar disability to me, and they get them a power chair or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's okay, but make sure they don't get too reliant on that, or they have all these adaptive, things, gadgets, whatever, for very specific tasks, which is great. But that makes everything easy at home. And I find, especially because I'm traveling so much and I'm traveling on my own, if I have all these gadgets to do specific tasks, I have to lug all that around with me. Whereas if I can adapt to the environment around me or the world, all of a sudden the world is accessible. So yeah, elevators and ramps are easier, but I don't need them. I can do stairs. So yeah, just examples like that where, have that technology for certain things, but also be able to do it without.
What advice do you have to someone who's struggling to be motivated to do anything in life?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a guy with a CEO of a company down in the States that I've done some work with, and his dad, he took over the company when his dad passed away, and his dad ran every day, every single day. And his dad always said the days that you most dread going for that run is the day you need to do it. And once you get over that hurdle, you're going to be so glad and so proud of yourself for getting out there and doing it. And it's not just as easy as, let's just go do it. It's there's a lot more to it. Couple weeks ago, I was in Charlottetown, and I had flown Kelowna to Calgary, had an event in Calgary, and then took the red eye from Calgary to Halifax, and then waited 5 hours at the Halifax airport to catch a bus to Charlottetown. Had a horrible sleep that night, did a presentation the next morning, and I had to get ready. I needed to get up and work out, so I'm training for the Calgary Marathon in a couple weeks. And I was doing the doom scrolling on my phone, and I came across this one post. It was on a baseball site page, sorry. And it was hard work is an inconsiderate SOB. It doesn't care about your feelings, how bad you hurt, or how tired you are. It only knows what needs to be done. And for anyone to answer that call over and over, where only pain is guaranteed, is nothing short of extraordinary. So I come across that quote, and there's a lot of times where you see something motivational, inspirational, and you're like, oh, that's nice. And then you just keep scrolling. Yeah. To be able to let those things in and be like, okay, yeah, I got to do something about this. Yeah. I'm not going to just keep scrolling. I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm going to get off my ass, and I'm going to go jump on my board and go for a longboard, or I'm going to go into the stairwell at the hotel room and work out in the stairs, or do some crunches or something. And we have all kinds of things, for lack of a better way to put it, all that stuff on the internet. We have people in our lives. We have accountability buddies, whatever. And you talk to people and they ask you a question, and what do you do when this happens? And you say, okay, well, I go through these 3 steps. And that, well, yeah, but. And when the yeah but people, they always have for every solution, they have a problem. So to get out of your own mind and quit making excuses and just go and do. And like I said earlier, I'm a jump in the net will appear type of person. And like Pierce Lyons was the CEO of Alltech, who I was telling you about earlier. His son, Mark Lyons, runs a company now, but Pierce Lyons, what he was saying about the days that you most dread going for that run is the day that you need to do that run the most. And it's so true. And, you can, sit on the couch feeling sorry for yourself, and that'll just keep spinning into deeper, deeper, deeper. Or if you can just get that little burst of energy to get yourself up off the couch, out the door. I mean, when it snows, my day just got a heck of a lot worse. Way longer, way more challenging. I just want to crawl back into bed, and hopefully when I wake up, snow's all melted, but life doesn't wait. And it's neat. More often than not, when I'm slugging through the snow on that board, somebody will come up to me and be like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I'm having a horrible day getting through the snow myself, and I'm seeing you doing it. and those are the things that just show up, and sometimes we don't even acknowledge that happened. We don't let it in. So like that quote that I came across, let it in and do something about it.
I like that. Yeah, it's honestly so true. And not every quote's going to speak to you, but when they do, or when you see something like that, like even just that visual of you pushing through the snow, and if I'm lying in bed right now feeling lazy, don't want to go in the snow, just thinking that, if you can do it, there's no excuses for me to do it as well. So that's really inspirational.
Well, then, like the whole if I can as well, you can apply it to the big things you've done in life. And that's why I tell people, go do that big trip. Tackle that marathon, learn that language, whatever. Because you have a few of those in your, feathers in your cap when you're, approaching some difficult times in life, some obstacles or barriers ahead of you. You can look at what you've done in your own life. Like, hey, that marathon that I never thought I'd be able to do, but I did it. I got this. You know, I've got the tools in my backpack or in my tool belt or whatever to push through whatever's in the future. That's why I think we need to be bold and just get out there and do those difficult things. Nobody needs to go run a marathon, but you do it and you have that feather in your cap.
You talked about traveling a little bit, but how do you get through that that maybe that worry that some people have about I'm going to fail at this, or it's not going to go well?
Yeah, there's a lot of times that I've failed. There's sometimes there's just the little things. You're trying to do a 75 hard challenge or whatever, and you get 11 days in, and you don't get day 12, and then you beat yourself up about it. And I think you gotta try and avoid doing the 1 step forward and 2 step back type of thing, and not beat yourself up too much about it. You always got tomorrow. Failing. I did a tune-up marathon for Calgary, Rockaway Beach in New York, and it was cold, like right around freezing, windy, and it was raining the whole time. And I've done marathons where it's rained, I've done marathons where it's been windy, and I've done marathons where it's cold. Not all three at once. And it was absolutely miserable, horrible experience. I mean, that marathon had huge potential. It was right on the beach, but it was not fun at all. And I'd done a presentation the day before to the Brooklyn Cyclones baseball team. And so the single A, high A affiliate for the New York Mets. And I had said, I'm doing this marathon tomorrow. And I said, it's a pretty flat marathon. It's a 4-loop course. I should be able to smash out something around 4 hours. So I said, you know what, let's make it. I don't remember exactly what it was. And, if I get under 4 hours, you guys, win this series against, they're playing Hudson Valley. We'll go out and we'll celebrate on Sunday. I finished the marathon and you guys won this series. And they're all, yeah, that's awesome. And then, about not even 10K into that marathon, it was not going to be anywhere near 4 hours. It was just going to be, just get across the finish line. And so you feel like an idiot, making a deal like that. But you're like, you know what? I'm out here. And I slugged those 4 hours, 58 minutes and 54 seconds of grueling hell. And I was actually more proud that I finished that one, because it was like, I was so cold. Like, I sat in a bathtub for an hour and my bones were still frozen. And so I was, and I had a couple other runners, but like, this is your defining marathon. Like, you can do this one. All the other marathons are a cakewalk. So, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it was a failure in that I wanted to be down around the 4 hour mark or under, but, just finishing, that's huge.
Yeah, no kidding. That's amazing. Just the fact that you went for 5 hours and finished. I won't talk about marathons on my side or my runs, because they're not quite that long. But I saw some of your times. You talk about sub 4 hours. That's honestly quite amazing. We'll have to get some footage that I'm sure you have and add it to the videos to show people how you do it. Yeah, like on your board.
My personal best is right here in Edmonton.
No way.
Yeah, it was 3 hours, 54 minutes and 13 seconds. And it was funny. It was about mile 20, somewhere way over there. There was some people that had a sign, free beer. And I put on the brakes and I backed up. I said, "You actually giving away free beer?" And yeah. So I slammed, they were just giving out cups of beer. So I slammed it and I kept going. And I'm like, man, I'm really hoping to get under 4 hours. And I said, if me stopping for that little bit of beer messes up me getting sub 4, I'm going to be so upset with myself. I got under 4, so I was okay. So I would have been, I don't know how much time I lost doing that, but.
So many people don't like the way they appear. They're self-conscious about themselves. What advice do you have for those people?
If you worry about how you look, you're cheating yourself out of opportunities. So if I was overly conscious about how I appeared to other people and annoyed by the stares and annoyed by the questions and the reactions and stuff like that, I wouldn't be out doing the things that I'm doing. I'd be, staying home, stay in my hometown where everybody knows me and is used to me. I mean, especially when you travel to places on the other side of the world where staring is not a faux pas, and Lauren's, been with me in Asia, and, people will walk up to me and like look underneath my arm when I'm holding my phone, or pinch the ends of my arms, or, when I was in Nepal, going around Kathmandu, we'd turn around and there'd be people just following us for blocks. It was like I was somebody famous, but they're just curious. And like that stuff doesn't bother me. I know I look different. Call it strange, call it weird, call it whatever you want, but I'm comfortable in my own skin. Proud of who I am. And if somebody thinks I look weird or strange or funny looking, that's their problem, not mine. There is sometimes people do have negative comments, and it bothers me, but more so if they were to think it's okay to say that to somebody else, and that somebody else doesn't have the ability to shrug it off and, just let it roll off their back like water off a duck's back. And it's been, and there's sometimes where I'm maybe not feeling quite myself, and those little comments dig a little deeper. But yeah, and we live in a society where everybody's opinion has such strong opinions about so many things, and feel that we need to know their opinions when we don't. Just keep that to yourself. You go on living your life. I'm going to keep on going living mine, and hopefully we both are happy. And yeah, so like I said, just be proud of who you are. We're all a little bit weird. We're all a little bit strange. We're all different. And I think there's a lot more positivity surrounding just owning who you are, and that's great. But there's still, you are going to look at, I mean, I still look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I could shed a couple pounds here. Maybe if I didn't like beer and burgers so much, these marathons would be doing more. But yeah, we all have our vices. But all in all, that's, yeah. Like I said, be proud of who you are, own it. If you're worried about how you look, you're cheating yourself out of opportunities. And there's so much out there to see and do. To get caught up in such material things, trivial things, it's not worth it.
In your opinion, is it better to stand out or fit in?
I guess it depends what you're trying to get at. I mean, I can't fit in. I literally cannot fit in unless I'm at a, War Amps child amputee conference and there's a bunch of other kids that are missing limbs. Then I can maybe fit in. But I'll go to the zoo, and mom will be like, oh, to their daughter, look at the giraffe, look at the elephant, and the kid will be like, does anybody ever noticing the guy with the arms and legs on the skateboard here? So yeah, I mean, I never fit in, and that's fine. That doesn't bother me. So the fact that I can't fit in, might as well go out there and do some badass stuff and change the perceptions that people have, maybe misconceptions of the quality of life a person with a disability can lead, or the types of things that a person with a disability can lead. And then other people with disabilities can be like, you know what, I can do some neat things too. And then the regular people, able-bodied people, whatever you want to call them, like, maybe I can raise the bar on my own life a little bit. So yeah, in a long way to get there, might as well stand out doing some cool stuff.
I love that mindset. So through your work, you've met, a wide range of people. You speak to students, you speak to businesses and companies. I'm sure you've run into celebrities. What do you find that most people are seeking in life, and what do you think they should be seeking?
I guess to each their own. Bills need to get paid. But I have qualms about presenters or websites or whatever that are so money focused. I could double your income. I think, okay, great. You have more money in the bank, but all those underlying things that were troubling you before still got them. And yeah, I mean, having a little extra money does take away some stress, but I think just the happiness and true happiness. I don't think that comes from a fuller bank account. And like I said earlier, you go travel to, remote villages in Thailand, Nepal, and people are just so happy and kind, and they want more of the Western life. I'm like, no. I think you guys have it made. you, in your tiny little home that you want me to come and stay with you at. You're just such beautiful, kind, amazing human beings. And it's funny. I'll be boarding around Los Angeles, and you go through actually, I'll use a more local example. I was downtown Kelowna. I woke up. It was last summer. Woke up stupid early. But, it's end of June, so the sun's up at 4 a.m. So I was boarding around, and it was probably close to 5. And I ran into this kid, probably 19 years old, and he was cleaning out the garbage cans, working for the city. Hey, how you doing? He's chatting me up. Way happier than one human being should be, cleaning out the garbages at 5 a.m. But just a great kid. And then I went down towards the Safeway, and there was 3 people who live on the streets, and they were getting their crack pipe ready. And they asked me if I wanted some crack. And I said, you know what, thank you for the offer, but I'm good. I try not to do crack before noon. And then I went back down towards the water, and there was a young lady, so it's getting closer to 6. She had her yoga mat under her arm, let's say upper middle class. And I nodded, said hello to her, and she just completely ignored me. And I was like, okay, so the people who should be the happiest seemed to be quite miserable that morning. I mean, I don't know her story. Maybe she had a bad night. Maybe, I don't know. But the people who, were appeared to be homeless or working not the most glorious job at 5 a.m. were the kindest. I'm like, what is, it should be the other way around. And happiness is that's the currency that we should be, trying to fill our accounts with. That's the difference right there. And I'm happy. I'm genuinely happy. There are days where I'm not as happy, but I wake up, I'm a happy-go-lucky person. I'm happy to be alive. I'm very lucky that I don't have to work really hard to enjoy life. Part of that is I have a job that I love, and when you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. But I've had ruts, funks. When my schedule gets quiet, I lack my purpose, and I don't do well with quiet time or downtime. So, yeah, then I have to work a little bit harder to be happy about stuff. But yeah, I'm absolutely exhausted. I've been on the road for 3 weeks straight, but I am happy.
So they say comparison is the thief of joy. Do you think it's comparison, or do you think it's like ambition? What do you think it is that really leads to people being unhappy?
Yeah, I mean, comparison is the thief of joy. I saw a funny meme. A guy my friend got a tattoo. It says comparison is the thief of joy. I wanted to go get that tattoo, but in a slightly bigger font. But yeah, I mean,
like social media is such a
and it's the best. It's the best versions of people's lives.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we've all, have people in our lives that we see their social media, and then we hang out with them, and hear them complain about this and this and this and this. I'm like, 2 and 2 is not equaling 4 right here. But, and I probably, I don't like posting the negative things very often because I feel like I'm seeking pity or sympathy. But sometimes I do, I will be candid. I was really hoping to get under 4 hours in that marathon, and I was off that by about an hour, and that sucked. But it is what it is. Yeah, I guess it goes back to, just being so driven to make more money. You forget to stop and smell the roses. I mean, there are people who are, successful financially, who do have it figured out and are, doing a lot of philanthropic stuff, and that I love seeing that. My buddy Justin Baldoni, he's done well, but he is a super kind. He does a lot of, like I said, philanthropic work, and just he loves helping people, loves people, and he's by Hollywood standards, he is a very good looking guy. He is super kind. He has an amazing wife and children. He's almost so perfect, it's disgusting. And then people are like, he's not as kind as he makes himself out to be on social media. I'm like, no, he is. He is that kind of a person. He's absolutely incredible. So yeah, that's the type. If you're gonna be successful financially, be doing that other stuff too.
Yeah, that's great. How do you deal with like stress or anxiety? I'm not sure if you get anxious when you go speak at a big company, but yeah, how do you deal with stress?
Well, I get nervous before every single one. Doesn't matter if I'm speaking to, Microsoft or a group of kindergarten kids. I get nervous, and I spoke at a thing in Guelph just the other day. There was 5,000 middle schoolers at this thing, and one of the girls that was singing the national anthem. Nope, she was just singing a song. It was a school of rock band for the school that she's at, and she was so nervous. And her friend brought her over to me, and she's like, I can't remember the girl's name. She's like, she's super nervous. Do you have any advice? I'm like, I'm nervous too. I'm nervous. And I said, when I'm nervous, I know that I'm thinking about what I want to say, how I want to say it. It's part of the preparation. And also, when I'm nervous, it's because I care. I want to do a good job. I want this to be the next best presentation that I've done. And, the day that I'm not nervous, that's when I'm actually going to be nervous, because maybe I'm not caring enough about it. And I might, and if I have a few of those in a row, then I'm really going to have to, have a deep dive with myself. Like, okay, what's going on here? Am I losing the passion for it? Because I absolutely love this job, and I don't care who I present to. I want to knock it out of the park.
What has been one of the best decisions you've ever made?
To book the plane ticket and buy that longboard.
Okay. Yeah.
Those were huge. To book the plane ticket and buy that longboard. That longboard led to the plane ticket.
Yeah.
And the plane ticket led to these presentations. And I figured, because I love telling travel stories, and I admire the heck out of somebody who has the guts to book that plane ticket and do that big trip that everybody, like, oh, he's so, you can't be doing that. You can't just be putting your life on hold and going traveling for 3 months. Well, yeah, you can. And a lot of times the naysayers, or the people that are so critical or judgmental, you're just doing something that they're jealous that you're doing, because they didn't have the guts to do it themselves when they had the opportunity. The people who are, hustling in life, taking big risks and doing those difficult things, they know what it takes to do it. They will throw all their support behind you, because they want to see you succeed, because they know how difficult it is to get to that point too. The longboard turned, opened up the door for travel. Travel opened up the door for presentations, because I figured, I have these neat travel stories to talk about. And it was such a serendipitous moment. Literally, the first person that I told I was going on that big trip to Europe wasn't even anybody that I really talked to that much. It was a lady from my hometown, and she was organizing a conference in, was it Edmonton? It was in Calgary. She's like, well, I figured it'd be neat if you'd come speak at it. And I said, well, when this conference is going to be happening will literally be a few weeks after I get back from this trip. I said, I was thinking that I should really start putting myself out there and pursue this as a full-time gig. And this opportunity is just landing on my lap out of nowhere. It's like, not like we had a conversation about it before at all. I said, yeah, don't tell anybody, but I'll just be getting back from Europe. So yeah, let's do this. And that's when you put things out there, when you put yourself out there, it's amazing how the universe will conspire to bring those opportunities, to your front doorstep.
Chris, your mission is called If I Can. Why did you choose that?
I would love to tell you this, cerebral story about this aha moment that I had, but it wasn't even my idea. So it originally started off as an idea for a travel show. My good buddy JR from the hometown just south of me in Nanton, he's from Stavely. He's a big traveler, and we came up with this idea of a travel show, but it would be unique in it. There's a guy without arms and legs traveling around and crossing off all these bucket list items. So we had done a trip down to Brazil, took some video cameras with us and got some neat footage and started pitching the idea. And he and his now wife and I were sitting up having beers, and his wife, Davina, she's like, what about If I Can? I'm like, actually, that's pretty good. And so what started off as an idea for a travel show has turned into, these presentations. And I mean, the travel show, if it comes to fruition, great. If it doesn't, still traveling around doing a lot of that stuff. What's that, sir?
Is it in the works? Like, is it?
Well, so do you know who Justin Baldoni is?
No, I don't. Yeah.
He and Blake Lively have this little disagreement right now. I don't follow the whole, whatever celebrity gossip, but anyways, he's an awesome dude, and he was in a show called Jane the Virgin, a couple other shows. Anyways, I was in San Jose at a Tony Robbins thing, and I was boarding down the sidewalk in San Jose, and this dude is chasing me down the street. Stop, hey, I want to talk to you. And it's this Justin Baldoni guy, and he's like, I love producing, feel good, upbeat content, and I feel you have a really neat story to tell. So we got chatting, and I told him about the travel show idea, and he goes, I love it, let's do it. And at first I was like, okay, I'll never hear from you again. And literally weeks later, he phones me up, and he goes, I got a camera crew together, I'd love to send them up, and let's start filming this thing. So yeah, we filmed a pilot, or the very first episode of this concept. A&E was actually quite interested in it, but they wanted to make it more of a relationship show. At the time, I was dating a girl from California, actress, vegan, has arms and legs, and I don't have arms and legs. I'm not an actress, and I'm not a vegan, and I'm not from California. So they wanted to capture the kind of that dynamic of, and I don't want a show for the sake of having a show. I want it to serve its purpose. It's a travel show. It's not just some of the, well, I'm sure you started Motiversity because you see there's a lot of crap out there. I didn't want to be a part of that. So, yeah, said no to their offer and a couple other offers. But, I mean, maybe one day, somebody with one of the networks that we pitched it to will be like, hey, remember those two guys that had that travel show idea? Give them a call, see if they're still interested in doing it, which that would be a yes. Still interested.
So if they wanted to do a relationship show, you would just say no, just not of interest?
No, I don't want to do that. It's not, no.
Are you really, do you find you're really purpose driven?
Yeah, I like, even there's some speaking opportunities or requests that come through my inbox, and I'm not afraid to say that I'm not the right fit. I don't want to accept money or take money for the sake of padding my bank account, and it feels dirty. And it's not that I have like a very specific image that I'm trying to keep. I want to do the things that I think are right, and there's somebody who's better fit for other things, and I'll send them to the direction that I think they need to go.
When you meet someone with no arms, no legs, say they're younger, maybe it's a child, what do you tell them?
Your ceiling is only as low as you decide is what it is. But that goes for anybody. Um, you know, don't let anybody tell you can't. If you believe in your heart of hearts that you can do something, you get out there and do it. And when people tell me that I can't do something, it just makes me want to do it more. And I don't want to go out there and prove them wrong and make them look like an idiot. That depends on. Sometimes I do. I'm not that big of a person, but sometimes I do want to make them look foolish. But generally, more often than not, I want to prove myself right. I know what I'm capable of doing. I'm not going to be reckless. And yes, hitchhiking across Canada can be considered reckless, but I'm not going to do something that I am going to put myself in a incredibly dangerous, or somebody else in an incredibly dangerous situation, trying to go out there and do it. And I have big expectations for myself, and I want, able-bodied or otherwise, people to have big expectations for themselves too.
What's your favorite quote?
Well, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. And that goes back to the comparison. And thinking that, what you're going through is way more challenging than anybody else. I did a presentation for, it was at the Kenai Peninsula Youth Correctional Facility. It was in a jail in Alaska. And it was six boys, 16, 17 years of age, basically on their last strike. Mess up one more time and you're going to end up in big boy prison. And when I went in there, I had the metal detector and I wasn't allowed to take anything in there with me, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't go in there because all those kids, they came in, their chest puffed out, and, this motivational speaker is going to come in there and tell them that they're on the wrong path and what they're doing is wrong. And I didn't do that. I just went in there and joked around and told them my story, and it just, as soon as I hit them with some humor and I wasn't there to lecture them, that wall came right down. And in the vein of everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about, I said, I don't know your stories. I don't know why you're here, and you're not allowed to tell me. You're not allowed to share that with me. But I said, all of you boys could say to me, hey, you know what? Yeah, sure, you're born missing arms and legs, but at least you had a good home life. At least you got a good family life. And I could turn around and I could say to those boys, yeah, sure, you had a rough home life and rough family life, but at least you have arms and legs. I said, we can go back and forth and be spinning our tires in the mud. It is what it is, and we have a choice. We can make that our excuse, whatever it may be, or we can decide, okay, it is what it is, can't change that, but what I can change is, how I approach this whole thing. And, okay, am I going to be grateful for what I have instead of worried about what I don't? Or going to choose to make it my excuse? And the best part was they all kind of nodded in agreement. I was like, hey, perfect. Yeah. Win.
Or do you have a most recommended book or movie?
I mean, there's a lot of movies that I am guilty of watching multiple times. Every Robin Williams movie is a classic. Forrest Gump is one of the best movies ever made. I dressed up like Lieutenant Dan this past Halloween, and I wore that costume on a plane. And I think a lot of people didn't realize that it was a Halloween costume. I think they thought it was just some dirty hippie. So that was good. Into the Wild is one that I really, really loved, that resonated with me, both the movie and the John Krakauer book, because he, as reckless as it was when he did go up to Alaska ill prepared, he lived life on his terms, and I love that. Also, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's another good book. There's a lot of really good books, and I love reading travel books. Bill Bryson. I could read Bill Bryson books till the cows come home. Yeah, those would be the ones that stick out.
You've done a lot of things with your life. Is there anything left on your bucket list?
Oh, there's lots of things. I mean, on the marathon front, I mean, I've done marathons on 4 of the 6 continents, 4 of the 7 continents, sorry. So cross Africa and South America off that list, and then be forced to have to consider how I might try and do a marathon. There's a half that they do, and I don't know if it's a full now, in Antarctica. So to have to force myself to have to consider how I could make that happen would be a great, will I get there? I don't know. But it'd be neat to have to think about it. Like, well, I have 6. Keep raising money for charities. The Calgary Marathon that I'm doing here, raising money for the War Amps Child Amputee program. Continue to make an impact, speaking at schools or for various companies and just making a dent, or even just, doing this podcast. And if one person watches this and, really strikes a chord with them, and it gives them that little nudge or proverbial kick in the butt to get out there and do that thing that they've wanted to do but been scared to do it, perfect. And I guess keep leading by example. It's easy to talk a big talk, but to continue tackling, more challenges and adventures, and keep ticking off countries off the list and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's, yeah. Like I said, I got that buddy who's been to Hall 198. I don't know if I'll get there, but be sure fun to try.
That'd be awesome. Awesome. I mean, I think you're definitely going to make a huge impact with this interview. You've opened my eyes to quite a bit. Chris, thanks for joining us today. Like I said, you've shared lots of valuable lessons, lots of jokes, which is awesome as well. And I really appreciate you being on the show.
No, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Chris, what do you think about teaching Joel how to skateboard?
Well, how tall are you?
But I found this board.
Oh! Losing count.
All right,
3, 2, 1, go. Sounds so smooth. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, quit make that.
What was Joel's? This is 1834. I feel like
I don't even remember what Joel's
I
was.
think you're like, wasn't it like 1838? That would be very serious.
All right. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Let us know if this interview inspired you, and let us know who we should interview next.